Hi y'all, welcome into your collective tarot love reading with Salty Tarot. Today we're going to look at what your person's intentions are. We're going to focus mainly on conscious intentions, where they want to take the connection in the 3D. If you're feeling a little confused about that, we'll hopefully get some insight for you. But we may also go into sort of soul intentions for what the connection is in the 5D if it goes there. If you're new here, most of my readings are collective love readings, posted usually on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. Sometimes they're late on Thursdays or Fridays. And I also post daily love tarot readings in the mornings, 8:30 Pacific. The readings are timeless, so they do apply whenever you come across them, no matter when they were recorded or posted. So let's get into it. Let's get salty and wet, just like the CHC, and see what the energies are between you and the person in your heart. Today I've got the Astro. Now I'm blanking on the names of my decks. We've got the Antique Anatomy Tarot, and I think this is called the Astro. The description will be in the name of the deck will be in the description box. So we're going to get a card for the energies of you and your person. I gave these a washing machine shuffle before we started here. So we've got conjunction for your energies, alliance, and for your person's energies. We have Scorpio. So conjunction refers to the energy of wanting to merge, either being merged with your person, so maybe you've already kind of fused your energies together, or you are wanting to do that. So there's a note about, so in astrology, if a planet comes within 8 degrees of the sun, which is the usual orb for conjunctions in standard astrology, sorry, there were like 6 different caveats in my brain there, such as ADHD. And so when they come within 8 degrees, they're technically conjunct, but because it's the sun, the energy of the planet gets sort of washed out by the sun. It's like the sun is so strong and powerful that the energy of the planet is a bit muted, unless they're exactly conjunct, so within that sort of 1 degree to either side of the sun. And then their power is magnified and amplified. And so the metaphor being, if you are exactly merged with your person and you're sort of harmonized and things are flowing well, then there's really strong power in that. But there is sort of you might want to take heed of the idea that if you are kind of like not orbiting the sun, but if you're getting close to your person's energy without actually being in that state of complete alignment with them, then you may be sort of dampening down your own energies. So just kind of take note, ask yourself if there's any ways in which you're having to mute yourself or make yourself less than, or sort of throw yourself under the bus, might be a way to say it, in order to get that closeness to the person who's in your heart at this time. And if there is, you might want to bring that up to conscious awareness and work with it. So Scorpio season may be significant in this connection, which we're just coming up on at the time that I'm recording the reading. Just for reference, if you're accessing the reading later, so it would be starting in a couple of weeks. So the energy of a couple of weeks from now might be significant in your connection if you are accessing the reading later, or it might actually be Scorpio season of whatever time you're accessing the reading. Or possibly maybe the next Scorpio moon. You might want to look into when the moon is next in Scorpio and see if that is potentially significant for your connection. And so Scorpio is the energy, it says investigate here. And Scorpio, the symbols of Scorpio are the scorpion, of course, but the higher octave of Scorpio is the eagle. And with the idea that transformation can occur sort of in a negative, low vibration, like that scorpion sting. It can also occur in a higher vibration. So if you think of the eagle as a source of strength and sort of soaring above the kind of pettiness of things, rather than getting sort of sucked down into them and being reactive. So Scorpio has that ability to transmute things to better outcomes, sort of acknowledging and taking that lower vibrational energy and transmuting it into the higher vibration. So the message of this card is about not getting stuck in assumptions, dropping the assumptions, and investigating. So not taking anything for granted. Sort of Scorpios are detectives. So I think we have this association of Scorpio with intensity or mystery, but actually the sign of Scorpio itself tends to create a lot of inquisitiveness, a kind of maybe I think Scorpios do operate in silence. This is my rising sign, so speaking from bias. Scorpios do operate in silence a lot of the time, but I think it's because they just want to be left alone as they sort of delve into their inquiries, and they can have that sort of obsessive quality of diving so deep that they find out every single thing about a topic before they are satisfied and move on to the next topic, or kind of chasing down the rabbit trails to find all of the possible links to that topic. So, when a Scorpio becomes interested in something, they tend to research, and they make great detectives. They make great criminal investigators. They are great forensic accountants. So that's all Scorpio energy, as well as, the occult, tarot, the witchy vibes of what we traditionally associate with Scorpio. And so anything that involves sort of traveling in secret or in mystery, the mysteries themselves would be very much ruled by Scorpio and Pluto. The co-ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and so that would be the sort of reactive, stinging energy, as well as just that drive, like having a lot of strong drive, and as well as the more intimate side of Mars. So Mars is the planet of intimacy. I'm trying to avoid the word, although I dislike the word intimacy. Sounds a little wishy-washy for the Scorpio energy, so if you can imagine like a more intense register of that term, that's what I'm referring to. And so, and that's another area where transmutation can occur, where alchemy can transform lower vibrations into higher vibrations. And so your person might be in an energy of wanting to find out more about the situation. They might be very attracted to you in that intimate way. They might be very interested in discovering if you have compatibilities in the bedroom, and they may be sort of focusing on that element of the connection at this time. But they may also be in a phase of testing, like maybe they're trying to find out more about you and about how you interact, and wanting to sort of gather information so that they have a better understanding of what the connection is between you. So Spirit, please tune me into the collective and what the intentions are of the person in their heart at this time. What are the messages that want to come through from Spirit regarding their person's intentions? We have the 8 of Pentacles. What are your person's energies regarding the connection at this time? How are they feeling about the connection? We have the Emperor. What actions do they plan to take in the connection? That would be the King of Cups. That's a beautiful energy. And so I had the question in my mind, I didn't say it out loud, but I was considering outcome. We've got the Star with the 2 of Wands in reverse. So that kind of reflects that Scorpio energy. Can we get a clarifier, please, for the 8 of Pentacles? We have the Queen of Swords. Clarifier for the Emperor, please, Spirit. Oh, that came out and went back in. We have Strength. Clarifier for the King of Cups. We have the Fool. That's looking like really beautiful energies. Also, those are awfully bright flowers for this deck. Most of the deck is a little more goth than those Fool energies. I like it. And a clarifier for the Star and 2 of Wands in reverse. We have the 8 of Cups in reverse. And bottom of the deck we've got Justice in reverse. Y'all, I had to step away for a moment, and that moment became an extended moment, and I've been through so many emotions around this reading since then. And I want to relay it because I feel like that's part of the channeling aspect of reading. And so I started considering these cards over here, and they're like, this is a really beautiful, amazing, soul-connected, gorgeous reading. And I was saying things to myself, wanting to say them in the recording, like I've never read such a beautiful reading before. I've never had the privilege of reading such a beautiful reading before. And I was feeling really lucky and full of gratitude. And then right on cue, as soon as I came back to the reading, the sun just blasted over the tarot table, and I could have pulled down the blind and kept going. So the sun came out and just obliterated the tarot table, and I was thinking about it in relation to that conjunction card earlier, because it was very much sort of like, I knew that the recording at least would efface the energies of the cards and replace it with just this blast of light. And then it was cloudy when I started, and I was so grateful for that, hot minute of sun. Living in even southern Canada, when it gets to be September, October, November, end of September, and into the fall, any moment of sun is a moment to be sublimely grateful for. But it was like what do you call it? Like, what's that form of acting where it's like, I was going to say method acting? Is that what I'm thinking of? I don't know. I don't know anything about acting, except for a wee tiny bit about improv and comedy. But I am thinking of, what's the word? Do a little hand dance while I try and think of it. It's a literary term, not an acting term. Or an art term? Figurative? Expressionism. It's a film term. So it's when the circumstances in a film express the emotions of the film with whatever environment, dynamic, sort of with the background, like if it's pouring rain during a sad scene, that's expressionism. Now we have rain pouring for love scenes, of course, but in the 1960s, which is the era of films that I studied in this film class in Sweden. Okay, enough rambling. So I just took out the bit in my channel description, about a strong likelihood of tangential ramblings. Anyway, if you're here, you'll probably be familiar with the fact that I do ramble. And they are tangential because I interrupt myself. And then I interrupt myself while I'm interrupting myself, and so on. Anyway, so the sun came and muted the actual, like, what could actually be seen of the reading. And so it felt like that conjunction energy, and then the sun, I decided I would spend that sun moment, which was sure to be short-lived, it being October in Canada. And so I spent it investigating, taking a hint from the Scorpio card, a little more deeply into the reversals over here. And because I'd kind of made an assumption, and there you go, there's the Scorpio card again. I made an assumption about all 3 of them that was positive and in line with the rest of the reading. And then as I looked up and delved a little deeper into more classical understandings of the reversals here, and I will say that I feel like I have a handle on reversals generally now, but it has definitely, there's depth to the reversals that is not apparent necessarily on the face of the positive cards. Anyway, never mind about tarot theory. But so when I looked into the reversals, they were looking negative, and I was getting anxious because this is the end of the reading. But actually, with the star card here, and this I read as background energy. Some people read it as like the overall tone of things, but for me, that's the anyway. So I'm not reading it as that. I'm reading it as like maybe what's happened before the reading begins, and sort of it does kind of flavor the reading, but I see it as like possibly the thing that happened before that has caused the shifts that are actually in the reading. At least in this reading, that's how I'm reading it. And so then the star is underneath here, and so this is contained, it's within the container of the past for me.
Coloring off.
And this is within the container of the star card. So I'm reading, what I'm seeing is that there has been imbalance in the connection between you and your person, or if you're asking about a new person, then in their past relationships that they are concerned not to bring to the table with you. And like these cards, like up to here, including the star card, are, I wanted to use a swear word there, but they're extremely magical. And so if you can just insert the swear word where I said extremely, emphatically magical. And so, yeah, as I looked into the meaning of these cards, I started having a feeling of betrayal. Like this all kind of set me up for the betrayal of the end. And so I'm relating that because if you have felt that in any way in this connection, then like if you felt like the sun came out and this person was the sunniest thing you've ever seen and like almost blinded by their light, and like they were your soulmate, they were your twin flame, they were your person. And if that has been, if you were fully in that energy and just blasted by it, like Rumi seeing Jinu's face for the first time and just, her face contorts because she's blinded by his light. And of course he's a demon is the irony, which we know, but she doesn't. And then, it's like the demon part came out right here. My brain is now patterned by that movie. My kids and I have watched it so many times and adore it. So, yeah, some kind of imbalance may have happened in a past connection, in the past in this connection. There's some background, just situation where there was an imbalance of giving and in a connection. And so your person has been looking at their own role in that. They've been taking accountability. They've been analyzing. They've just been like going through, that Scorpio energy of like going through everything with a fine-tooth comb, trying to figure out where the missteps were, what they could have done differently so that they can not do that in this connection. That is what I'm seeing ultimately here. So the misstep may have had to do with not investing, and you can apply whichever of those situations resonates for you. So if you have a past with this person, it might be resonating that this is something from the past in your own connection with them, or it could be that this is baggage that they're bringing in from a past connection or that they had brought in initially. So in the past, they may have just been a bit aimless. They may not have made decisions. Conversely, there could be a meaning of they may have been so obsessive that they wanted to sort of like the thrill of the chase, and then, winning a person over and then just discarding them. So they may have been in that energy in the past, and they have been, like the energy here is that occurred, they didn't learn their lesson, and so it created the situation of profound imbalance, unjustness, just a person just feeling really betrayed, as I was saying earlier. And just like things were, it just would not have been possible for things to progress or move forward from that place. And so your person, though, has been doing their shadow work and extracting the lessons from that situation and the part that they played in creating that situation, their part in what they created in that situation. And now they are deeply, deeply invested, like so invested in leveling up to meet you where you're at. They want to be the best version of themselves in order to be worthy of you in this connection, of the love that you are bringing to the table, of the feelings, affection, responsibility, self-accountability, whatever it is that you are bringing into the connection, they want to level up and match that and meet you there rather than, pulling you back down. There's such a strong energy here of them. So we've got, I'm just so excited about so many things here. So we've got 5 major arcana on the table, which suggests that there's a very, very strong connection. It's a relationship of significance in your life. And if it hasn't gotten as far as you having evidence to support that, then count this as the intuitive nudge in that direction. It is looking very, very significant. There are we've got a king and a queen. We've got the King of Cups and the Queen of Swords, which, although not natural counterparts, they are nonetheless a king and a queen bringing in those pinnacle energies. And I do read them as, kind of counterpart-ish. We've got the Emperor as well, which is and when I say king, queen, and the Emperor, counting the Emperor in this as well, I'm referring to the energies, not to people's genders. So if I refer to the Divine Masculine in respect of this card, or the Sacred Masculine rather, that is, and if I refer to the King of Cups as he and the Queen of Swords as she, I'm not talking about your gender or your person's gender, because these energies can apply to a body of any gender. So you may relate to the King of Cups, you may relate to the Queen of Swords, you may relate to the Emperor. Conversely, you may relate your person to any of those energies, or, all of the above. And so, and then so we've got the Sacred Masculine on the table paired with the Sacred Heart. We have the King of Cups. We have the Star card, which is the card of, we have 2 cards of leveling up. We've got 3 cards of leveling up here. So between the Star, the Fool, and the Emperor, there's just a very strong energy of your person being deeply committed, plus paired with the Strength card. Like, they're so committed, they're just wanting to implement. It's almost like they've done the work in the past, maybe coming out of a previous connection, and maybe they've been doing their shadow work, introspecting, going into their hermit state, and trying to parse what happened in that connection, like doing that Scorpio detective work. And they've sat with that, they've thought about it, they've analyzed it from a mental place, they've also felt into it, and they have come out of that process not perhaps fully confident that they are ready to jump into another connection, but very much in that place of curiosity and knowing that the only way to find out if they're ready is to be open to that and to level up and to test themselves. And I don't mean that they're viewing you and your connection with them as a test or some kind of petri dish. I mean that, or laboratory. I mean that they have an intuitive knowing that they are ready. And they're deeply committed to being ready, to being that up-leveled version of themselves who is ready to connect with you authentically, with integrity, with love in their heart, but still hanging on to logic and wit and wisdom and discernment. They've got, it's all here. So I was initially seeing a contradiction between this is a card of failing to plan and this is a card of like strategizing and planning. And these two together are kind of the opposite of this card in reverse. So, but what I'm seeing here is that this is past energy or something that they've been working on within themselves in order to match your energy and the energy of this connection and what is being asked of them. I was going to say demanded of them, but that's kind of, I don't mean that in like, I'm not suggesting that anybody's actually demanding anything. I'm saying they feel a demand on their soul almost. It's almost like, and I mean that in like a joyful, spiritual, up-leveling, beautiful way. So they feel this call from within their soul to be a better version of themselves. And so they are strategizing, they are planning, they're considering how you fit into their life. They're wanting to be in those sacred masculine energies of creating the container and being open to the adventure, open to the journey, trusting that there's multiple cards here of trusting that the universe has their back, that the universe will catch them if they leap, and that this is all happening for a reason, that they're being called into this connection for a reason. There's multiple cards here of the bond being a very strong one, as well as the number of major arcana on the table. There's multiple cards here of unconditional love and getting out of ego, of putting in more effort, of putting in the work that is required in order to be fair, be just, and bring that unity energy into the connection, show up as their best counterpart self so that they can be your counterpart. There's multiple cards here of them wanting to come in with sort of level-headed affection and love and have their own boundaries intact. It just looks like a very healthy connection. They look like they are in their integrity, like they have done that work. They've questioned their own shortcomings in the previous connection or previous situation or in their past. And they have discernment, they have love, they have so much unconditional love for you. And yet they're able to bring it forth within this logical container where they're practicing discernment, they're analyzing, they're noticing things, but this is what that process has led to, is this very balanced strength of love and hope for the future between you, intentions for the future. So not just hope, like they have a plan, there's action and strategy happening, and they are relaxing into their own heart. They're allowing their feelings, they're opening their heart to you, and they're ready to take that leap. And it all sort of begins with this Queen of Swords, so they want to work specifically on being in their integrity, running the connection through like a logic filter, using that discernment, that analysis. But the Queen of Swords is also about wisdom and wit and clarity and boundaries. And she's about truth and, no BS and being clear about what you'll accept and what you won't accept from another person. And so to the extent that perhaps your person, it's almost like maybe they betrayed themselves by not having strong enough boundaries in a previous situation. And so they've done the work of figuring out, like they know themselves that much better now. And now they're able to bring forward their boundaries with you. But they can do it in a way that is ongoing, is responsive, is fair to you, and with wit and humor and sagacity. And my brain went down a rabbit hole as I was thinking about the Queen of Swords, and I was trying to sort of, like, she kind of gets a bad rap sometimes insofar as she's considered this sort of like, like, na. Like, she's a queen, but she isn't cute, she's that sort of like hard energy, like almost like it's almost like she doesn't have like she's not really associated with typical feminine traits. And again, I use those words as shorthand. You can hear my distaste for the shorthand, but I don't know, man, they're patterned into my brain, for which I apologize. And I do try to get away from that language and kind of veer into more gender neutral terms, but for what it's worth, when I'm excited like this, it is worth using the shorthand so the other ideas don't get lost. But in fact, she embodies the integrity and the knowledge that if you show up as your best self in a situation, that will support your relationships with the people around you. And I was trying to think of like the humor piece, like that sharp wit, that the swords are the suit of air and communication and mentality. And so naturally the queen of the suit is going to be, will have perfected that wit. And I was listening, I must admit, I was listening to the Handsome podcast right before I began recording this tarot reading. And so I began thinking of how Notaro is a comedian. It's kind of the Queen of Swords in a nutshell. Like, she's very clear with boundaries, and yet she's hilarious. And she refers to, like, she's just got this dry wit where she can break things down. She sees, she has that discernment. She breaks things down into exactly what is happening in a situation, and yet she can still operate on a meta level where she's extracting the humor from the situation at the same time as she's so grounded, and just delivers it in this like almost searing dry wit, while being still really loving and caring to the people around her, insofar as she's concerned how the jokes are going to land, and like checking in and making sure that people don't feel inappropriately mocked. And then my brain went down a rabbit hole of Notaro is the Queen of Swords, and then Notaro's name is she specifically has no tarot in her name. It's like, I wonder if she'd resonate with that. And that was very funny at the time. But yes, if you ever want to laugh your arse off, check out one of her podcasts or one of her Netflix specials. Yes. And then it's a slippery slope from there to Fortune Femster and Mae Martin and Hannah Gadsby, holy hell. Anyway, okay, so yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. Yeah, I think we're going to leave it there and get some channeled messages from your person. I think I've exuded all of my enthusiasm about this reading. I just am so very excited about it and so happy. I'm just overjoyed to be giving a really positive message for once. I feel like a lot of my readings tend towards the negative, but much like the Queen of Swords, that if I'm giving a positive reading and I'm this excited about it, that it's there in the cards, right? Because I'm honest and I don't cherry pick my cards. So when I give you a reading like this, you're getting the straight goods. Like, I'm not embellishing, I'm not, polishing. I'm telling you what I see in the cards. And so I hope that gets you even more excited about this reading, which is super, super exciting. So let's have a look at the channeled messages. And also, I really love when the tarot cards reflect exactly what was in the oracle cards beforehand, because this sure came through. Okay, so we're going to get some channeled messages from the Hermit Tarot. I just have to give it a little shuffle. Okay, so we've got the Hermit Tarot. So Spirit, please tune me into the message. Y'all, it cut me off. And then I pulled the most perfect card. So there I was shuffling away, and out came the first card, and I don't know how I could even persuade you that I don't cherry pick my cards, because this is the most perfect card that could possibly have come out for this reading, for these cards that are on the table already. And yeah, it's such a beautiful first card out. So that's what came out, and then the video cut off, and now we shall continue. Sometimes the channeled messages can contradict the reading, and so if that happens, if there's anything in the reading that feels like it resonates for you, take that. If there's anything in the channeled messages that feels like it resonates for you, take that. And if there's things that don't resonate for you, discard them, leave them for somebody else. It might be that somebody else, it's a collective reading, so there might be somebody else for whom that just twigs a realization, or, catches something that perhaps they weren't aware of. It's just the messages that Spirit wants to bring forward. Maybe things for future contemplation. So maybe it's, inspiration for you for your career or an entirely different area of your life. So in any event, we're going to continue. So Spirit, please tune me back into the energies of the collective's person, the person in their heart. Just going to take a second to ground again. Please bring forth the messages that it best serves for them to hear at this time from their person. Love is always the answer, isn't it? Isn't it? If I follow you, I could lose everything. So again, that might resonate for some of you and not for others. There might be some social consequences or family consequences that your person is up against. Maybe it could affect their job or their career. Maybe there's a relocation required. I feel like that one wants to come out. You are my everything. That is definitely the energy of this reading. Although in a healthy, not codependent way. I have so much desire for you. Get a couple more and then we'll move over to the other cards. I need more balance. Actually, I'm going to leave it there. I feel like that's meant to be imbalanced in the presentation here. Got just a wee little bit of sun poking out again. I think it's barely on the table, but it's like a little bit of a nod to the earlier blast of sunshine. Spirit, what are the messages from the person in the heart of the collective accessing this reading? What are their person's intentions? What are the messages from your person? I know that I crossed the line with you. So these cards might be more in the vein of if you have a past history. I left before you could leave me. I want to be more than friends. If this is a new person in your life, then you could take these messages as, potentially there was a conversation where they felt like they crossed the line, or maybe you were in a conversation and they left the conversation before you could leave. But if there's a deeper resonance to that, then trust your intuition about that. Any other messages, Spirit? We will be together again. Bottom of the deck. I knew exactly what I was doing, for what that's worth. Okay, we shall leave it there. Thank you so much for being here. This has just been such an abundant, beautiful reading. Thank you so much for allowing me to read your cards today. And I'm so happy that you were here, and if you're still here, awesome. Perhaps you could leave a rose emoji in the comments, and it's a good energy exchange. It's a good way to claim the energies in this reading for yourself, as well as support the channel. And so yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, all the things, press all the buttons, and may your inner salt freely flow. We'll see you in the next one. Bye!